Hey there, everybody in America and Canada. This is Dan Baker with Blue Collar Talent Scouts. I'm joined by my partner.
I'm Wood Boyles. Nice to be here with you guys.
Great to be with everyone. So, if you've been following our videos, no, my face is not a Mr. Potato Head that you can just move pieces around. I'm actually trimming my face hair a little bit. I feel like I walk faster, right? It took me a lot less time to go from one end of the place to the other after having shaved. So that's awesome. I think I'm 9 pounds lighter as well.
Yeah, that fixation with your hair's gotta slow down a little bit, Dan. That's getting a little bit much.
Interesting. I can't wait to see what's going to happen the next time we join each other.
Exactly. You'll probably have that little Tony, what's his name from Iron Man, just the little pencil.
That's it. Yes,
you.
indeed. I've always wanted to do the handlebar mustache. I don't know that I could pull it off though.
Yeah, you got to have some wax for that. So, hey, let's get to the topic for today. So,
no, definitely. So, if you've been following our video series here, there's short clips, just kind of thoughts that we've been saying that Wood and I come up with all the time. Whether it's conversations we have with folks in the field looking for jobs, conversations with contractors who are actually looking to either hire people, retain people, or actually shore up their current process. And this is a topic that comes up quite a bit. Wood's experience is actually absolutely fantastic when it comes to this topic. So, Wood, I'm gonna go ahead and let you kind of kick this off.
Well, I'm sure you've got a few things to add to this, but let's talk about two of the most important factors when you're actually looking for a job. Number one, there's a few things, and we're going to talk about resumes to some degree. In fact, we don't expect for a good skilled tradesperson to have a perfect resume. But there are a few factors that you do need to think in terms of. From a serious side, first of all, unless it's something to do with your license, I would not list any dates, not the date you graduated from high school or college, if you went to college, any of that, because those are things that anymore, HR people are telling applicants all over, we don't want to see that because people start to guess your age. That's not anyone's business. Now, if you want to put in that you've been a journeyman or a master for 10 years, that's a different story. And so those types of things are good. You also want to be very careful about the way that you reveal too much about yourself. And, Dan and I talk all the time. I have some other friends who are in recruiting and HR, and we talk as well about the fact that people reveal way too much with as simple a matter as an email address. You know what? Nobody wants to know the size of your biceps or any other portion of your anatomy in an email address. Nobody wants to discover that. Nobody wants to know what your favorite beer is or whiskey or what your favorite leisure time activity is.
Yeah.
Google, Gmail and Google are free for a reason, and that's a perfect thing. You know what? Put down an email that's your first initial, last name, whatever. Maybe you want to put plumber in that. Maybe you want to put electrician, whatever. Use that and do that type of thing because that's going to be pretty important.
No, that's a key point. I've actually had conversations with candidates before that were stellar candidates, and then I personally was not paying attention to the email address because I just didn't think. You go and you submit a candidate over, and then the contractor calls you back and they say, Dan, I can't call this guy or gal. And I go, why? And they go, did you see the email address? And then to prove your point, you have to have that conversation. Another thing as well, just to piggyback on email address information, is also voicemail information. It's almost better if on your cell phone, you just leave it to default. You have called 972 blah, 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 as opposed to having some type of, well, hey, everybody, mama. Trust me, I love to have a blast. I love to have a blast. Wood, you're a crazy man as well, right? But the reality is, since you never know who's calling, it's critically important, especially when you're looking for that position, to make sure that things are as even kill as they possibly can be. That's a great point.
And I would say too, listen, most people who are in this process of helping identify and find good talent, I did that for 16, 17 years with my last company. And I like Dan, sometimes you wouldn't catch the email address. You wouldn't have made the phone call because I actually had at one point 13 locations I was supporting from a recruiting standpoint. And so I would just pass resumes on to my general managers at that point. You know what? they see that, and what I've seen are qualifications that clearly mean they're able to do the job. But what the manager looks for is stuff that screens out. Hey, 20 years ago, they taught you all sorts of things. I used to be a corporate trainer. I used to train people. Look for those kind of mistakes on a resume. If there's misspellings, if there's, periods where they aren't employed, those types of things. You know what? That's not real in the skilled trades. It really just does not apply the same way because it's such a limited number of people, and people move because they can make more money, because of career opportunity and so forth. So you're not going to find someone who's worked 15 years at an organization typically. It's unusual.
Right.
So with that type of thing, you want to be, more circumspect. The other thing I'd say on a resume is it's no longer a space. I mean, hey, 30 years ago, people would put on there, these are my hobbies, these are my activities, these are, I'm married, I've got 2 kids, whatever, those types of things. Don't put those on a resume anymore. That can work for you with certain people, but it'll work against you with others, because people who look at those types of things tend to look at it from a standard that really doesn't have nothing to do with the job. So I'd be very careful.
You're 100% correct.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Keep it standard and keep it simple. And if somebody is interested in anything additional outside of your ABC qualifications during an interview, that's when you have a casual conversation, if in fact it makes sense to. I agree.
Yeah, well, and the best news of all is that guys like Dan and myself, all the time, we help guys put together a resume when you feel like, oh, I don't have something. You know what? We're going to try and help place you if you're qualified, and we'll be straight up with you. If you don't meet the qualifications, hey, if I got a company or a client that's looking for someone who has to be a journeyman or a master, I'm not going to be able to put someone in front of them who's, well, I've plumbed for 18 years, but I don't have anything but an apprentice card or a tradesman's license. That type of thing won't work. I've got to meet the criteria that the employer is looking for. On the other hand, we will help you put together something that spells out in the best way possible what your qualifications are, and we will do what we can to match you up with the right type of employer. Now,
that's exactly right.
I would say, in addition to the resume, though, here's another thing. You're going to get opportunities to interview. That happens pretty regular. It's the type of thing that, you're going to see that you have opportunities to engage with some hiring managers. 2 or 3 things there that really will make you stand out from everyone else. First of all, before you interview, if it's not just a phone screen out of the blue where, hey, someone gave you your number, which we won't do that. We'll tell you who we're submitting you to. But if you're getting that phone call out of the blue, you may not have time to do this. Otherwise, do some research on the company. They don't like
without question.
They don't like to hear when they ask the question, hey, what do you know about ABC or whatever it is? ABC company. They want to hear, oh yeah, well, and they want to see that you've done a little bit of research. That doesn't mean you've got to have spent hours on it, but take 15 minutes online or talk to a couple of guys who have worked there either currently or in the past.
You guys have been around for 15 years. Yeah, you're in the DFW market, Chicago market. You guys primarily do ABC, DFG. Yeah. Absolutely.
Residential, commercial, industrial, whatever it is. So you look a lot more presentable at that point because, hey, you've paid attention.
Yeah.
Now,
well,
go ahead.
In addition to that as well, we all know, and contractors who are watching this, please understand where I'm coming from. We all know that there are quite a few contractors in any given market that have either very close to the same name or super similar names, right? ABC Mechanical versus ABC Installation versus ABC Service. That is another reason for a potential candidate to at least do some digging, because if nothing else, if you're able to decipher, right? Hey, you're ABC Mechanical, not ABC Installation. That's definitely it's a black mark. If you're not sure which company they are. So
actually, as an HR manager, I once got a call from law enforcement. They were looking for a guy that they swore worked for my company. And I'm like, I go through all the logs. I go back. I had records for 20 years. And I'm like, sir, I don't have that name. Well, they worked for you, and they called out our company name was initials. They called out the initials, and they said, "Oh, it's a XYZ, XYZ mechanical, right?" I'm like, "No, sir, that's not us." But if I had not been paying attention, hey, even law enforcement got it mixed up. They just didn't know any better. Now, those types of things happen. The other thing is, let's talk a little bit about the interview itself. If you, hey, we understand stuff happens. If you aren't going to be able to be there on time, give the person notice, at least 15, 20 minutes, if not more. And some of it can be, I'm caught in traffic, I'm on my way. Show up and be presentable. Don't be that guy who walks in jeans and shorts and flip-flops and looks like, you know what, they just rolled out of bed and this was the only near clean shirt they had. Jeans are okay. Make sure that they're clean. Make sure that they're the best you got. Nobody is expecting you to show up in a three-piece suit. In fact, you probably won't get hired.
Right.
But the other side to it is you want to be presentable. A couple of other things
I agree.
to do with that. A couple other things to do with that being presentable. First of all, there's this. It's a different world now than it was before. You know what? There are people who do hair color. There are people who do piercings. There's people who do tattoos. It's all a matter of personal taste and personal expression. On the other hand, if you show up and your hair is bright blue, know that that may be something you're taking a chance, because again, you never know who that manager is or what they're expecting. If they're looking at it and they're very conservative, their clientele is very conservative, that's going to be something they'll pay attention to. You know what, that's something that you can at least consider, and you may want to have done your research to understand what type of company it is in terms of that, what their philosophy is.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Additionally,
you can see a lot of that stuff on Twitter pages or Facebook pages too. Most contractors have those, and you can see pictures of Christmas parties, anniversaries, Thanksgiving parties, Halloween, whatever the case may be. So a lot of the information you can think pretty quickly.
Sure. Additionally, with piercings, hey, people are, you know what, it's a lot easier than it was, but there's still certain things. First of all, piercings that are not safety conscious are going to be a red flag. And people who show up with that type of setup are going to be noticed in the interview. You still have a lot of guys who grew up in the trades at a point, ladies and men, who grew up in the trades where it was a blunt, hard-working, old school approach. And so their thought is it should still be that way. It's not that way, but you still have to know and be careful about that. At least be aware. Look, if it's too conservative and you're not, that's not the right place for you to work, but you at least want to be aware. If you show up and you have 5 tattoos or 5 piercings on your eyebrow, or 3 nose rings, or a half dozen ear piercings, there are going to be things that some managers will make a hiring decision just based on that. And again, maybe not fair, but appearances and all that, that's just the reality. And I wish it wasn't. I'm not saying I would do that.
No.
I don't know what I would do. I would base decisions on other criteria, but that's one of the things that you just never know. And you will never be told that. Managers are trained to just keep looking for a better qualified candidate, and they can find someone that more fits their profile, if you will. Additionally, let's talk about tattoos for a minute. You know what? Tattoos are a lot more acceptable than they were 10 years ago. When I first started working in the trades, if a guy had tattoos on his forearm, he had to wear long sleeve shirts, even in the summertime, even in Texas, because someone might be offended. I don't think it's quite that concerning anymore, with a couple of exceptions. If you actually have tattoos that reflect gang symbols, that reflect some type of hate speech or affiliations that are not popular politically, racially, any of that type of thing, you need to consider, how can you best present yourself? You may want to wear a long sleeve shirt. You may want to do something to cover that tattoo for that period of time. I will say, I had a gentleman come in one time and apply for a job, and my HR contacted that shop, brought me the application. I looked at the application before I met the gentleman. He had this statement on his application: please don't judge me by my tattoos. I was young and stupid. I've turned over a new leaf. I'm trying to get my life straightened out. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, he walks into the office and he has a shaved head and he has a racial epithet tattooed all the way across from ear to ear across the back of his head. You know what? If you've got something like that, that may be something you want to consider growing some hair.
Right.
You know, and again, nice young man, but it's one of those things that, especially when a manager is interviewing you, when a hiring manager is interviewing you, part of what they're looking for is how will this person fit with the team, and how will this person present to my clients, because they will be a walking billboard for my organization, and so you want to keep that.
Bingo.
So those are just a few thoughts. We promised we wouldn't take too long with these things. Dan, I'm sure you've got a couple of things to kick in, but those are my quick hit thoughts. We do want to take our next episode or opportunity, I think, and talk a little bit about to contractors. What is realistic in terms of expectations? So guys, don't take this as critical of one side or the other. We're just trying to do our best to really build a kind of a matchmaking scheme for both sides, for the tech and for the contractor.
100% bingo. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And actually, the only thing I want to add is the reality is when you're looking for a new position, be respectful, do your homework. Even a little bit of homework's going to help. And then just show up on time, wear clean clothes. And I know these sound silly, but Wood and I both experienced these firsthand over the last 30 plus years that we have between us when it comes to recruiting and in the trade space. So other than that, you guys will be just fine. Hope everybody's safe. Hope everybody's family is safe. We look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Guys, we really appreciate you. Hang in there. Things will get better. Things are going to be better. Just keep after it. Keep safe. Okay? Talk to you soon.
Perfect. See you guys later. Cool.